The courtroom went silent, cameras froze, and then Alexandra Grant made an accusation so shocking that even Keanu Reeves couldn't speak. No movie role prepared him for this moment. No script. No second take. Just one statement that changed everything, and a silence that said more than any words ever could. What really happened inside that courtroom? Stay with us, because this story isn't what anyone expected. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Now, let's dive into what really happened. No one in the courtroom expected this moment. Not the reporters lining the back rows, not the legal team seated confidently at their tables, and not even the judge presiding over the case. It began like any other high-profile hearing, with quiet whispers, controlled movements, and the soft clicking of cameras capturing every detail. Yet beneath that surface calm was a tension so thick it felt almost physical, pressing down on everyone in the room. As Alexandra Grant slowly rose from her seat, the murmurs faded. Her presence alone commanded attention. She didn't rush. She didn't hesitate. When she spoke her first words, they carried a calm intensity that instantly shifted the atmosphere. Even the judge leaned forward slightly, sensing that something important was about to unfold. This wasn't a dramatic outburst or an emotional breakdown. It was measured, deliberate, and deeply serious. Then came the moment no one could have predicted. When all eyes turned toward Keanu Reeves, waiting for his response, he remained silent. This was the man the world had admired for decades, a symbol of quiet strength, humility, and emotional control. A man who had faced personal tragedy, intense fame, and global scrutiny without ever losing his composure. Yet in that courtroom, faced with an accusation that struck deeper than anyone realized, Keanu said nothing at all. Seconds passed. Then more seconds. For the first time in years, the Hollywood icon appeared completely speechless. His expression was unreadable, his posture still, as if he were absorbing the weight of every word that had just been spoken. The silence wasn't awkward, it was powerful. It filled the room louder than any argument or defense ever could. This wasn't a scene from a movie, no carefully written script or dramatic pause designed for effect. There were no retakes, no background music, no director calling cut. This was real life, unfolding inside a courtroom where every word carried consequences, and every moment could reshape reputations, relationships, and futures. The spectators sat frozen, realizing they were witnessing something rare and deeply human. A moment where fame offered no shield, and public image provided no protection. What kind of accusation could leave a man like Keanu Reeves without a single word to say? To truly understand how everything led to this unforgettable silence, we must go back in time, before the flashing cameras, before the headlines took over social media, and before the heavy courtroom doors closed on a story the world was never meant to see. Keanu Reeves and Alexandra Grant were never the kind of Hollywood couple that thrived on attention. In an industry fueled by constant headlines, public appearances, and dramatic confessions, they chose an entirely different path, one defined by privacy, balance, and quiet connection. There were no public feuds, no viral red carpet arguments, and no carefully staged moments designed to dominate the news cycle. Instead, their relationship unfolded calmly, almost invisibly, away from the noise of celebrity culture. What made their bond stand out was its foundation. It wasn't built on glamour or publicity, but on mutual respect and shared creativity. Keanu and Alexandra collaborated on artistic projects, including books that reflected thoughtful expression rather than commercial ambition. They spoke the same intellectual language, valuing ideas, art, and meaningful conversation. To many, they appeared less like celebrities and more like two individuals genuinely enjoying each other's presence. Fans admired them because they felt real. In a world where Hollywood relationships often appear rushed or performative, Keanu and Alexandra represented something rare, mature love. They didn't pretend to be perfect, yet they seemed deeply grounded. Alexandra was never presented as just the partner of a movie star. She was an accomplished artist and thinker in her own right, confident in her identity and comfortable outside the spotlight. Many believed she understood Keanu not as a global icon, but as a person shaped by loss, experience, and reflection. For years, The public viewed them as proof that meaningful relationships could still exist in an industry obsessed with youth, speed, and chaos. Their quiet appearances together sent a powerful message. Love didn't need constant validation from the world to be real. That is precisely why the accusation shocked everyone. When a relationship appears this stable and dignified, no one imagines it unraveling inside a courtroom. No one expects calm companionship to transform into legal tension. The contrast between the couple's public image and the reality that surfaced was jarring, even unsettling. Behind the scenes, away from interviews and photographs, something had been building slowly. Not a dramatic explosion, but a quiet accumulation of unresolved feelings, unspoken frustrations, and emotional weight. The kind of issues that don't attract attention, until one day, they can no longer remain hidden. And when they finally surfaced, they did so in the most unexpected place of all, under oath, in silence, before the world. As Alexandra Grant stood before the court, her presence was composed, her posture steady, and her voice calm, but unmistakably firm. She did not raise her tone or seek sympathy through emotion. There were no tears, no visible anger, no dramatic gestures. Instead, she spoke with clarity and restraint, and that restraint gave her words extraordinary weight. Every sentence felt deliberate, carefully chosen, as if she had rehearsed them not for performance, but for truth. What she presented was not the kind of accusation the public often expects in celebrity court cases. This was not about money, contracts, or public image. It wasn't about fame or revenge. Alexandra made it clear that her pain came from something far more personal and difficult to quantify: emotional neglect. She described a gradual change, not a sudden betrayal. According to her, behind Keanu Reeves' widely admired image of kindness and humility was a man who slowly began to withdraw. A man who avoided difficult conversations, postponed important decisions, and chose silence when communication was needed most. She explained that it wasn't cruelty that hurt her, it was absence. The absence of words. The absence of clarity. The absence of emotional presence. Alexandra spoke of moments when she felt invisible despite being physically present. Moments when concerns were acknowledged but never addressed. Conversations that were promised later, only to be delayed again and again until they lost meaning. Over time, she said, that silence became heavier than any argument. It created distance where closeness once existed, confusion where understanding should have been. The courtroom listened in complete stillness. This wasn't the unfolding of a scandal or an attempt to destroy a reputation. It was the exposure of a deeply human conflict, one that many could recognize in their own lives. The judge, the attorneys, and even the spectators seemed to sense that this case was less about blame and more about emotional truth. When Alexandra finished speaking, all eyes turned toward Keanu. Many expected him to respond in the way he always had, calmly, thoughtfully, with gentle honesty. Some anticipated an explanation, others a quiet defense, or at least a brief statement acknowledging her words. But Keanu didn't speak. He lowered his gaze. His hands rested motionless in front of him. The confidence and control so familiar to audiences around the world were replaced by something far more vulnerable. His expression revealed inner conflict, an emotion rarely captured on screen and never staged for an audience. That silence, unbroken and heavy, filled the courtroom. And in that moment, it spoke louder than any denial ever could. Those who know Keanu Reeves personally have long understood one fundamental truth: he carries his pain silently. Throughout his life, Keanu has faced a string of personal tragedies, from the sudden loss of loved ones to the pressures of constant global fame. Yet, instead of expressing his emotions openly, he internalizes them. He retreats into himself, processes his feelings quietly, and waits. Silence, for him, is not avoidance, it is a way of coping. It is how he manages grief, disappointment, and conflict in a life that has often demanded strength beyond measure. This characteristic, so familiar to those close to him, became painfully evident in the courtroom. When faced with Alexandra Grant's heartfelt and deliberate accusations, Keanu reverted to the pattern that has defined much of his personal life. He did not respond with anger, defense, or outward emotion. He did not argue or explain himself immediately. Instead, he remained silent, processing internally, carrying the weight of the confrontation in his own way. According to sources close to the couple, Keanu's silence was not a reflection of indifference. He did not intend to hurt Alexandra. On the contrary, he believed that by avoiding confrontation, he was protecting both of them. He thought that silence might prevent further pain, that holding back his words could shield them from conflict or disappointment. But this well-meaning approach had an unintended consequence. Alexandra experienced his silence differently. It felt like distance, neglect, and even abandonment. What was intended as protection was interpreted as emotional absence. Here were two people, both deeply invested in their relationship, interpreting the same behavior through entirely different lenses. One sought to avoid hurt by remaining quiet. The other experienced that quiet as a profound and painful lack of connection. This is the paradox of communication, and it became the heart of the courtroom drama. Two perspectives, one misunderstanding, and a chasm of emotion neither could bridge in that moment. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, the judge paused the session to allow both sides time to reflect. The pause was symbolic. It allowed the public to realize that this was not a case about right or wrong, guilt or innocence. Instead, it was about human connection, or the lack thereof. Even the most admired, disciplined, and celebrated people struggle with communication, and even the strongest bonds can be shaken by silence. In that courtroom, Keanu Reeves' quiet struggle became a powerful reminder. Emotional misunderstanding can wound just as deeply as betrayal, and silence, no matter the intent, can speak volumes. When the courtroom session finally came to an end, there was no dramatic verdict, no explosive announcement, no gavel slamming to signal a conclusion. Yet, despite the absence of fanfare, something profound had shifted. The energy in the room had changed. The air that had been heavy with tension now carried a subtle, lingering weight of understanding. Everyone present, lawyers, journalists, court staff, and spectators, felt the significance of what had just unfolded. Keanu Reeves, who had remained silent for so long, finally stood up. He looked directly at Alexandra Grant. There were no words, no speeches, no declarations. He simply nodded. It was a quiet, almost imperceptible gesture, but its meaning was unmistakable. It wasn't a verbal apology, nor a justification. It was acknowledgement, a recognition of her feelings, her perspective, and the gravity of the conversation they had just shared. In that single motion, he communicated what words could not. The courtroom began to empty slowly. Cameras clicked one last time. People whispered quietly among themselves as they filed out. Yet, even as the physical space cleared, the impact of that moment lingered. Those who witnessed it knew they had seen something rare, a genuine human connection stripped of pretense, fame, or performative drama. It was a reminder that the most powerful truths in life often don't require shouting or spectacle. This story was never about destroying reputations or publicly vilifying anyone. It was not about choosing sides, assigning blame, or creating scandal. It was a deeply human story about the complexities of communication, the weight of silence, and the unspoken emotions that can accumulate even in relationships built on love and respect. Silence, as this courtroom drama revealed, can wound as profoundly as harsh words. For fans of Keanu Reeves, the moment humanized him in ways that media narratives rarely allow. They saw a man, admired worldwide for his composure and humility, grappling quietly with emotional conflict. For others, Alexandra Grant's words and presence gave voice to feelings that often go unacknowledged, particularly in relationships overshadowed by fame. And for all of us, the story serves as a universal reminder. Even love built on mutual respect can falter without honest communication. Ultimately, the loudest truth in that courtroom was not spoken. It was felt. It was in the silent nod, in the quiet acknowledgement, in the understanding that sometimes, what is left unsaid carries the deepest meaning. The moment remained etched in the minds of everyone present, a testament to the power of human connection, emotional honesty, and the truths that emerge, not through words, but through silence.